Hi, good morning. Um, my name is Rinaldo Aguiar, and today is June the 5th, 2025, and it's about 8:33 a.m. Central Time. So this video is I think, the third video of the video series that I'm working on called Rapid Fire Tips for Law Enforcement. And the idea is to give tips and information to potential enforcement officers and agencies that I imagine at some point might look into this um, to try to help, basically. So today I want to talk about, and I'm going to try to make it short, but there's a lot of information that I would like to include on this one. So it may not be as short as I would like to, but I'll try. I'll try to condense it. So I'll try to speak a little bit faster to help that objective. But I would like to talk about I wouldn't even call it an incident. I would call it a situation, I guess, that I called the Xfinity Comcast debacle. So what and this is basically it's a big situation, because it's what led to the situation we are in today, right? In which I'm aware of what they're doing, and I capture their database of geolocations of interest and their financial ledger, which led to them trying to kill me. So this is kind of this was an inflection point in this 18 years conflict. So what happened was, I think around 2021, a series of things happened, and I'm going to describe some of them. But what those things, those situations that occurred, caused was that I became aware that they were tapping into my internet. Okay. And this is what kind of woke me up at the very beginning of 2021. That I might have been a target of espionage, right? Of industrial espionage. I thought at the time. I didn't know it was state sponsored, but I thought it was industrial espionage at that point. So I thought it was companies, powerful companies that could potentially pull this off at this scale. Trying to either suppress my website or steal what I was working on, right? So that's what I thought at the time. The situations, I'm going to describe the situations that happened that led me to that conclusion. So the first thing that happened was that, and I've described the online conflicts in other videos, and like in the demo that I gave in January 2025. I recommend watching the video. It's posted on the website under the database, leak database tab. You can watch that video explaining exactly what I mean by this. But during that time of the online conflicts, multiple times it happened that I saw something while I was debugging the attacks using online tools that I use. And I had this common habit, I would call it, of conversing with people that were close to me about the things that I was observing, like people like Gloria, for example, or Penelope, right? I would tell them, I saw this, I discovered that, right? So what happened was that it happened multiple times in 2021 or late 2020, early 2021. That I told Gloria here in our house, right, in specific places in the house. I told her, look, I saw something, and I showed her on my computer, on my phone, and within 3 minutes, the thing that I had observed, there was a very complex thing that happened using servers deployed all around the world, suddenly stopped happening, right? It disappeared in a matter of 3 minutes after I said it. Also, other things that happened were things like, I sent an email to myself, right? I had this bad habit. It's a bad habit, really, of using my email as a to-do list. So when I had an idea or I wanted to do something, what I would do, I would send an email to myself right? With a short phrase reminding me to do it, or more or less how I would do it. Because I get these ideas sometimes, and if I don't act on them quickly, then I might forget, right? So I would send an email to myself, and surprise, right? After I send the email to myself, within 5 minutes, the thing that I was planning to do was no longer possible, because this criminal organization that I didn't know who they were made it impossible. Like, they took actions to prevent me from doing that, right? So, that woke me up even more. And then I started doing experiments, like, okay, well, let me see if it's my Wi-Fi that they have captured, right? So I started doing things like sending an email to myself with something that would be tantalizing to them, right? But I would send it using a hardwired connection instead of the Wi-Fi, to kind of do an ablation experiment, like the same thing they were doing with the trucks of the Texas Department of Agriculture, right? I'd remove the Wi-Fi. If they can still see it, well, it was the Wi-Fi, right? So I did that, and surprise, they can still see it, right? So I figured, then I removed the router, right, thinking that it was the router, another ablation experiment. It got to a point where I sent the email directly connected to the Comcast router, right? Connected with a wire directly to the Comcast wire, sent a tantalizing email, and they acted on it in 2 or 3 minutes, right? So I figured, well, they have the Comcast capture, right? And this is what led to the point that we were today. So let me start by showing how they did it at the beginning. So this is my address, right? The house where I was living at the time. 26714 Valleyside altogether. This is another attack of them, right? Like, if you type my address, Valleyside, one word, they have attacked Google so much that now it autocorrects to Valley space Side, which is a different street in Houston that they also control, and it's a very prominent street because Valley is a marker in their system, right? All the streets in Houston and in other places have the word Valley, or its equivalent in Spanish, Valle, are prominent streets. Streets are operationally important to the network. Anyhow, if I go, I'm going to show you, this property basically. I don't live here anymore, but yeah, this is I still own it. So this is where I'm physically present today. This is what the house looks from the outside, and this is this one over here is the pine tree that they killed. That's also, well, they killed many trees, right? But this is the one that was covering the Starlink antenna that I had installed in this point, and this is documented in the journal. Mention it because that's an important episode of all this, right? That also led to a bunch of discoveries on my part. But anyhow, so this is a property. So I'm going to show you how they did it. So if you look at the house, right? So this is my house. This is the house controlled by Citgo. The pretty agents, PRIDY. So my Xfinity box is in this side over here, so around 29.71152 minus 95.83946. And the way it used to work since 2014, when I bought the house, is that there is a cable, underground cable, that is routed underground. It's very shallow depth, but it's there. It's routed on this side of the fence, and then on the back of my backyard, and then it goes through this house. Well, it used to go through this house, and then it ended up at this tap. A tap that's spelled T-A-P. It's basically an aggregator. Okay, so this is a Comcast, well, in general, right? A tap is an aggregator that is operated by a telecom or multiple telecom operators at the same time in some occasions. And basically what it does, it connects multiple houses together, and from here there is a stronger connection with more bandwidth that goes from here to a bigger aggregator that then connects multiple aggregators, and it basically aggregates that way multiple neighborhoods, and then at the end it aggregates in the big aggregator in a Comcast facility or AT&T facility, and that's how these networks work, right? So this tab, this white box that you see here, which is located exactly, I'm going to give you the coordinates, 29.711.925 minus 95.839990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990. 9990 So that's where the cable used to go. And what they did is that they controlled this house, right? They bought it. They owned that. Well, I don't know if they sold it. I don't think they sold it because it would compromise the entire street. They own the entire street. They cannot sell the house to a stranger, right? So I'm pretty sure they still have the house. Maybe they move a low risk agent that has zero exposure or close to zero exposure in case he gets caught. There's no risk, but they own the house, that's for sure. So this is the tap, okay? So what they did is, because they control the house and the tap is in the backyard of that house, well, they basically, I can't prove this because I wasn't there, but logic tells me that they basically put a splitter, or they took a connection in there and from there, and they basically took all my traffic. So everything that I sent over my internet connection or received, they could see, right? Because they had the wire capturing that aggregator. And that's why these houses over here have these two military grade antennas, and these have been documented before. I have thermal imagery of these antennas transmitting at night. These are not regular dish antennas. These are military grade antennas. I think this one has 2 feed horns, and this one has 3 feed horns, and this one feed horn devices. Those are the actual devices that transmit. That correlates basically with the bandwidth of the antenna, right? Or the reach if they're using troposcatter. And this one has 2 feed horns, and that's why, right? Because these two houses, just to be clear, this one is the one that is right behind the Pritis, and this one is the one that is next to it. These are major jump points for them, right? For taking my traffic and capturing and to then decrypt it somewhere, right? We're using more computing power probably. And then another thing that is notable here, this fence over here, and this was documented before, and I showed this to Agent Cody. I made that mistake. This fence has a hole in which that they used to pass items from this house to this house. That shows collaboration, right? And also in this side of the fence, this Citgo house has a kind of a fake plank that they can remove, and then they can physically pass from this house to the 26722. And I've seen them doing that. And then this house is of course also controlled by the network, the 26722. This guy over here, back then, I don't know right now, but back then, I don't know because I've been out of this house for almost a year. But back then, he used to be a guy that looked Indian or Iranian from that geography. And I think he was a technical agent because of a few things that I saw that they're not relevant to this video, but I'm pretty sure he was a technical and engineer, right? It takes one to know one, right? Like you know somebody that does what you do, and I know what you're doing, right? That feeling. Okay, so they took the tap, right? And this is when everything went bananas for them. Because what happened was, because I have this bad habit of, telling people close to me what was happening in my life. I understand that I can't afford to do that, right? I mean, I know this sounds crazy, but I can't afford that, right? Like, with the level of surveillance that these people have on me, I can't talk to anybody about anything that is important to me because they will weaponize it, right? So, and if you think about it, that's pretty deep. I mean, that's a basic human right as to communicate is something that I can't afford, right? I can't risk it, right? And not, when I say I can't risk it, I don't mean like I'm protecting myself. I can't risk it because I know that I'm carrying knowledge that could get rid of these people, right? And if I say something and they weaponize it and they harm me, a lot of people are going to be harmed, right? Because they're going to be controlling the world for another 100 years. So anyhow, the tap, right? Where is the tap? Yeah, so the tap is here, okay? So this is what happened, right? So I told Gloria, I said, listen, Gloria, I'm pretty sure at this point, I've run tons of experiments, and I told her this downstairs, right, in this house. I'm pretty sure that they have the internet capture, and I told her, look, they're doing it in this tab, and I basically showed her and told her exactly what I'm telling you in this video. 2 days later, I was running, and I was running with Penelope. We were running out that day. And, the conversation came up, and she said something to the effects like, well, my son works for Aspen, which is a contractor of Xfinity, right? She didn't To be completely fair, she didn't say, my son can help you, but it came up in the conversation that he had a working relationship with the contractor, like he was working. He basically, her son, he installs Xfinity cable systems in houses. That's his job. But he's a contractor. He doesn't work directly for Xfinity. He works for a company called Aspen, I think, at the time. Which is, of course, a big operational company of the network. Like Aspen is a big player in this, and all their locations are marked with super high paramilitary scores. The executives of the company, have crypto payments. Like it's the whole 9 yards, right? But the kid, he was a kid, maybe 17, 18 years old. He worked or used to work there. So she mentioned that, right? And of course, because I have this situation with the tab and I'm ignorant about the scale of the operation of this network at that point, I said something to the effects of, well, maybe he can help me move the cable, right? And then she asked him. And then basically we had a conversation over text, and the response was like, yes, he could help. Like he could file a ticket saying that I had complained about a friend had complained about the internet not working, reliably, and that he could recommend moving it to a different tab. So we did that, and he moved the cable from this tab to this tab over here. That it's, I think it's here. I'm pretty sure it's here. 29.7150 minus 95.83883. Okay, it's either here or here, and it's not visible because of this tree, but it's in one of these two houses. So this would be, I'm pretty sure it's this one, 26707 Cedardale Pines Drive, or 26711 Cedardale Pines Drive. Now, if it is, assume for a second, right? Because the two are obstructed with the tree, so I cannot really see the tab, but I see something white here, so I think it's this one. But if it was 26711, it's notable to say that this was the address that agent gave me the time they came banging on the windows of my house, and they had the surveillance vehicles outside, and the Chinese woman with a spectrometer outside measuring the spectrum. All this is documented before. That was an operation of like 7 agents and 5 cars. It was a crazy thing that they did. This is documented. I have the videos. It's posted on the website. If you can, please check it out. It's also in YouTube in the other channel. So that's the address she gave me, right? So I mean, this have proof that the person living there is an agent, right? Even if I didn't have the geo index at that point, I knew, right? Now this house is interesting because it has a trampoline antenna. You can see it here. These trampoline antennas have been documented, to death in the counterintelligence journal. These are key pieces of their land infrastructure. This is how they do the troposcatter point-to-point multi-hop. It's extensively documented before, demonstrated, because I have the index, and these trampoline antennas are marked in the index. Notable example, Patricia Rojas, family friend of 30 years, a friend with quotes. She has a trampoline antenna in her backyard, and it is marked with hit-to-kill precision in the database, in their geo-index. So anyhow, I move with the help of Andres Eduardo Pirela, which is Penelope Suarez's son, the cable from the tap at this house, the 26727 Cedardale Pines Drive, to, I think it was 26707 Cedardale Pines Drive, okay, to that tap on this backyard. Now, this is what really messed the operation up. I'll tell you why. When this happened, well, before I tell you that, I have to tell you, there was an incident that at this point I understand was a harassing incident. Like, this is what they do. They harass their targets with multiple neighbors, co-workers, right? The idea is two things, right? One is to wear down the target, right? He gets tired of the conflict with everybody, right? He or she, it could be a woman too, right? And the second is to discredit the target, because then they have this collection of incidents, right, documented on email, where the target is fighting with somebody else, right? And if there's a litigation with intellectual property or whatever it is, they can gather all these people and all these emails and say, well, look, this is a conflictive person. Like, obviously this person has problems with everybody, right? From this coworker, that coworker, this manager, blah 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 blah, this neighbor, that neighbor, like the HOA manager, the president of the HOA, Phil Denning, right? And then at the end, right, if a judge looks at this, and the judge probably will be controlled by the network, because we have seen this before, where these people that work in the judiciary system are marked in the index with crypto payments. So it would be justifiable for the judge to say, yeah, I mean, I don't believe this person, right, without looking suspicious. I think that's the end goal of that. But anyhow, some years ago, I think 2018 maybe, I had a problem with a person that lives at this house. So this is my house, 26714, and with the person that lived at that house, 26715 Cedar Pine Drive. So the one that is behind, diagonally to my house. The conflict was because I had installed some lights in this rooftop here, like decorative lights, and the person came to my house banging on my door, a woman, right? A Colombian woman from Colombia. I know because we spoke in Spanish. And she came banging on my door, like, very strongly, and she was yelling at me, saying that she couldn't sleep because, like, she was making a big deal out of the lights, and I turned off the lights, right? But we had a kind of a confrontation. So because she banged so aggressively on my door, I turned off the lights. I didn't want to, like, escalate the situation, but I did go to her house the next day, and I politely told her husband to please don't come to my house banging on the door. Like, if they have something to say to me, please send a letter to the HOA, or hire a lawyer and have your lawyer contact me. Like, don't come to my house banging on my door. That was all I said. Okay. But this is important because in this occasion I saw these two people, right, that they lived in that house, and I spoke to them in Spanish, and I recognized their accent, that they were from Colombia, the country Colombia. And this is crucial on the unraveling of all this. So when I moved the tap, right, what happened was Andres Eduardo, who is Penelope Suarez's son, he came to my house. He put, like, what they call a temporary cable, which means it's a cable that is not buried in the ground. It just goes above ground, and it's temporary because he doesn't have the training and the permits to dig into the ground, because there could be gas lines. It could be dangerous, right? Then so they put that temporary cable, and then in the next day or in 2 days, somebody else comes and they actually bury the cable. So when we were doing that, we had to pass the cable through this property, right? So Andres Eduardo took the cable, he routed it over here, and he was passed it over here. Then when he was doing that, the neighbor of this, so basically the resident of 26715, who I had spoken with before, 2 years ago, right, came out of the house. I mean, came out in the backyard to see what was going on, right? Because he saw that Andres Eduardo was kind of looking over the fence, and when he came, he spoke to me, and he spoke to me in perfect English. Now, he looked exactly the same as the man that I had the situation with 2 years ago, that I went to his house and I talked to him, to that house, right? 2 years prior to that. He looked physically like he was, like, very, very similar. I mean, same height, same color, same hair color, same hairstyle, same age range. Like, all the things that I could see were exactly the same. But he didn't speak Spanish now. He only spoke English, and I was very confused by the situation. I tried to speak to him in Spanish, and he kept replying in English, and he didn't understand what I was saying in Spanish. He would tell me something else in English. Like, his response didn't correspond to the question I was asking in Spanish. So it was clear to me that he did not even understand Spanish. But he looked exactly the same like this other man that lived at that house and spoke Spanish. So I understood at that point, right, that this was a person there was an intelligent design on all this. This person was put in that house and was selected because he looked exactly like the other person, so I wouldn't notice that he had been replaced, right? It's a replacement, it's a switch. The furniture on the backyard of the house was kept exactly the same as it was with the previous people that lived there. So they made sure to not change anything that I could see, anything visual that I could see visually, and replaced the person with a person that looked the same, exactly the same. It's a canny resemblance. It's uncanny. It's amazing. I mean, they did an amazing job. But they made a mistake. They didn't remember that I had talked to the guy and that we spoke in Spanish. They didn't have that context, right? So they put a person that didn't speak Spanish, right? But I mean, that was very revealing to me, because when you look at that kind of logistics, right? Like, imagine, what does it take to not only be able to own 2 of the houses next to your house, but also be able to replace a resident of one of those houses with someone that looks exactly the same. Like this. That's when I thought this has to be state sponsored. That was the first time I thought, this is a government doing this. This is not Travis Kalanick or I thought at the time I thought it was Travis Kalanick who was behind trying to steal my technology. So I thought, this is not Travis Kalanick or Piero Midyar. This is a state sponsor. Like the level of planning, resources, and intelligent design put behind this operation is not, it's not something that a private corporation could pull off. Because I thought, right, that the corporations are subject to scrutiny, and just in this thing that I'm seeing right here, which I'm sure is just like the tip of the iceberg. It's easily $3 million, right? How they justify that in accounting? How they justify that with investors? Like, this would be visible in their accounting systems. Like that. I mean, I was naive, of course, right? But I thought, this cannot be a company. It has to be a state, right? And that's what led to the whole thing. Now, I'm mentioning all this because, well, of course, and then after that, I canceled the Comcast and I bought the Starlink, and that's why I put that Starlink antenna here. But for a year and a half, and surprise, surprise, Starlink is owned by Elon Musk, and he's connected to this, right? And it's really the Chinese government who owns Starlink. So they also got me there, and this is a very important thing, right? Like. It's an operational tactic, high-level tactic, right? The way of design. I would say it's a design pattern. When they're going to do something, when they decide to go after whatever it is, they go after that and all the similar options that you could take, right? The idea is that no matter where you go, they will find a door to get your data, right? So if they have Comcast, it means that they have AT&T, at least in this area. I can assure you that, because they cannot risk that I can switch to another provider, for example, and then they get into a situation where I can send emails that they can monitor, right? So that's why they have to own all the ISPs in the areas that they want to control, or that they want to operate with impunity. That's what woke me up, right? So I canceled the Xfinity, and I put the Starlink, and eventually, right, I realized that I hadn't captured the index yet, but through technology, because I developed technology at the beginning that even I didn't have the index, I had spectrometers, cameras, microphones, and through signal processing of all these data inputs plus public records, I could figure out things like points where they were intercepting me, people that were constantly intercepting me, the ways they were doing it, and the system could figure out, right, early on. They could flag people, cars, and the same thing, but with less recall. Recall means less coverage, right? Because I didn't have the entire index on the entire world, I just could flag people that would interact with me, intercepting me, and things like that, or sending me messages or emails and things like that. In this hyper-local environment, right? But it was like a mini version of the state that we are today. We had high precision as well, amazingly high precision, Google quality, really. So when I realized that, I basically moved out of this house, right? Which was also another mistake they made. I think they were like testing me, right? Like to see if I would really move, and they took me to that complex, the Lake Point Estates, where I have the other house now. They took me there, and they set up these rules where they showed me a house. I mean, they put a house in the market, and they basically put some cameras in the house to see my reaction. Like, it was a silly thing. But I say it was a mistake because, well, that led me to discover that neighborhood, right? And eventually I did buy a house. I managed to buy a house. They could not stop me from buying it when they tried. And that led to the downfall of Phil Denning and, the Sachs and, the Ambassador Petroleum and all those key players, right, that they had well protected in that Lake Point Estates, and they were the ones that brought me there. So they're the only ones to blame, really. They can only blame themselves, like they shoot themselves in the foot by showing me that neighborhood. And Gloria was the person that showed me that neighborhood. One day we were driving, and she said, "Well, look, there's a neighborhood with a gated community here. Why don't we come and see if there's a house?" And I said, yeah, let's do that. And eventually, right, I mean, it took me 3 tries. I tried to buy 3 different houses, but the third one I could buy because I didn't apply for a loan or anything, right? Like I basically liquidated my savings, so they couldn't see which house I was going to buy, and I bought it. But anyhow, I set up that house. I moved to that house. A lot of things happened, and then at this point in the conflict, because I'm not gonna give away my strategy, but at this point in the conflict, I realized that it's a good idea for me to partially operate from this house, from the 26714 Valleyside Drive. So I'm setting it up again, right, slowly. And as part of that, I put back the Xfinity, right? I hired Xfinity Internet again. And this is what really I think brings this full circle. So this is what happened when I bought the internet, right? It's one of those internets that you go to the store and you get the modem and you come home and you plug it and you self-install it. Okay. Now when I left the setup with a key with a lock. There was a padlock that I installed in the connection box that is located here in this corner. Okay. So I'm sure nobody touched it because only I had the key, and well, I cannot say that. Maybe they have a way to open that lock. But when I opened it, it was exactly the same as I left it. Right? I didn't see any signs of tampering with the box. So I was expecting it to work because like the only thing that is in that box is 2 cables and a T connector that connects the 2 cables. That is a passive. It's supposed to be a passive component, meaning it doesn't have power, it doesn't have electronics. It's just a connector, right? Made with a special characteristics, so it works well. But there's nothing really that device is really doing actively. Okay, supposedly. So I didn't see any signs of tampering. I was expecting this just to work, right? So I connect the modem. It's dead. It doesn't work. I say, wow, what a strange thing, right? And I started debugging, right? Doing the same thing that they were doing with the trucks just the other day, like the ablation experiments, right? Well, I remove one cable, I remove this, I remove that to see where is the failure, right? And eventually it gets to a point where nothing works, whatever I ablate. And I say, well, I'm just going to remove that splitter that I have here, and I'm going to show you later what it does. I'm going to remove that splitter, and I'm going to connect directly the modem to that cable that comes out of the ground. See what happens. Boom, the internet works. Well, it's the splitter, right? The splitter is not working. Now, this is the interesting part because this splitter is a passive component. It's, yes, things go wrong, right? It could have gotten wet, but it didn't get damaged in the 2-3 years after Andres Eduardo and the other guy, because remember when we moved the cable, Andres Eduardo Pirela, Penelope Suarez's son, came and put the underground cable, and he put this splitter because he said this was he changed the one that was there, and he said, well, this is bigger, this is better quality, like this is I have one that is better, basically is what he said, and he installed this one. Okay. And then the other guy came and put the underground the cable underground, and that's when I saw the non-Colombian neighbor that should have been Colombian, and when that happened, right? So after I removed this, when I came back just last week and put the new internet, the Comcast again, then it started working. Okay, so this is the thing that failed. So now this is a theory. I haven't bench tested this. I will do it. but I just haven't had the time to do it. I have a bunch of things to do, all related to working on this little project I have of bringing down these people. But I have tons of things on my to-do list, and this is not a priority for me right now. But it is an important item, so I will bench test it. But my theory is the following: my theory is that this thing is not really a passive component, but it has a transmitter inside that transmits to one of the houses next to me what is the MAC address, which is what they're always chasing. They're always chasing the MAC address or the IP addresses because they need that to be able to intercept and to decrypt the traffic, right? If they don't have that piece of information, it's very difficult. So my theory is that this is an active, really an active component that transmits that MAC address or IP address or whatever to one of the houses next door to me. It could be either this house 267.110 or could be one of these two houses, which are well-known houses tied to South Typhoon, right? The Chinese-sponsored hacking group. 26707 and this is 26711 Valleyside Drive. Now, the question is, if it's active, how it's powered, right? It always, this is what I do, right? I always trace energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed. So that's always what gets them, right? Like, and when I say energy, I don't necessarily mean electricity. I mean, money, things that have energy, right? They have to somehow transform them to do what. If you want to buy a house, you have to put the money right where that money came from. If you want to deploy 20,000 spy vehicles in Katy, well, who paid for those vehicles? Who financed those vehicles? Who sold those vehicles, right? That's the way they are also almost always get caught, right? So on that, I have to say, I have a theory. Okay, my theory. Well, before the theory, why they did this, right? Why they put this device? Well, because the moment they saw that I became aware of the tab interception, and I wanted to move the cable, moving the cable to this other tab and intercepting it there. I mean, I'm pretty sure they were intercepting it there too. But they had to consider the possibility that they had to remove the interception if I called the FBI, right? Or if I managed to contact the FBI or somebody, right? They may have to destroy that interception point, and then they would have no way to, decrypting my traffic. So they had to put that device there as a backup, right? In case they had to destroy the interception, or if I switched to a company that for some reason they didn't control or didn't have the same level of control, they could still get the MAC address every time they want it, right? Anytime. So that's why they put the device in there, I believe. Now, how they power it, I have a theory. So on this house, 26707, there are some, and this was documented before. Oh, this is interesting. They put the antenna back. Well, I don't know how recent this photo is. I'll have to check. But so this antenna that you can see here, it's a military-grade antenna. They had it tucked behind the fence. And when I moved out of this house more than a year ago, almost a year ago, the next day I moved, they removed the antenna. And they mounted it in Lake Point Estates, right, in another house in there. Well, I believe it's the same. I don't know if that one, but it was like they dismounted this one the day I left, and the next day or 2 days after, I saw them mounting another similar antenna in Lake Point Estates, right? So it could be the same antenna. I don't know. Anyhow, it's still visible here, and these photos update. I don't know. They don't take a year to update, so I don't know. I don't know if they just put it back again, or this just the photo never updated in the satellite imagery. But anyhow, this house has some very particular looking reflectors, right, that are pointing straight to this box. The reflectors, I'm going to try to find some reflectors that look like that. So to give an idea, Porsche incandescent directional light. Let me see if I can find one that looks like that. I should have done this before, but no, I can't find any. Well, there are tons of these installed in Katy. I'll take a photo of. I mean, this is kind of a standard issue item that they issue, right? So it's something that looks like this, more or less, but the surface of the bulb, what gives it away is the surface of the bulb is not. It's obviously a material that is not. It's not conducive to letting light go through, right? It's like a plastic. It looks like a plastic, and they're pointing, straight to a strategic point. In this case, they have in this house installed one of them here. I'm going to give you the exact coordinates: 29.71118, minus 95. 8.83950. That's where they have one. Oh, this photo might be old because I remember seeing this truck in the photo like 9 months ago, like a year ago, right? So maybe the antenna is not. I'll check if the antenna is there or not. But maybe the photo is just old. So they have a reflector there, and they have another one here installed inside of the fence, but above the door that they have in here, and it's around 29.71113 minus 95.83955. So those two reflectors are pointing to my house directly, right, straight, or were pointing. I don't know. I haven't checked recently. So one was pointing to the garage, and the other one was pointing to the box. Okay. It could also be, I mean, this is pretty long distance. It could be like 50 feet. So I don't know if it would be that, or if it's something on this house, right, that they have. I don't know. I haven't interacted much with this neighbor. There's a marker close to his house, but I don't know. That one I'm on the fence. But it could be something here, right, that was powering that. But anyhow, my theory is that they are by induction, or they were by induction, powering this device. And when the device is powered, right, when it has enough energy, it can do its job, and it doesn't interrupt the communication. But because I've been out of the house for a year, they disconnected that, right? And because they see risk, maybe they even removed the equipment from whatever it is that they were firing the inductive current to the device, and the device lost all power, and after a year it doesn't work, right? And that's why I connected all this is a theory, right? But I'm guessing that probably a qualified agency could verify if this could be the case. That's why when I came back a year after and tried to connect the Xfinity modem, it didn't work, right? Because the thing doesn't have the power needed to function, and it just becomes like a resistor, right? Like a load with no charge and with no power, and then it just interrupts the transmission of the modem. This is an interesting piece, right? Now I'm gonna take it out from the box, and just to I mean, just in case, right? There's fingerprints or anything. I'm gonna put these globes on while I manipulate it to show you. So this device, right? There's something interesting here that I saw also. So it has this filter over here. So the actual device itself should be this, right? But it has this filter here, and this filter has a kind of sticker in it, a blue sticker, and it says, do not remove this under any circumstances. This device is required for a better experience, right? Something to that effect. And the device is very, I would say, permanently attached to the T connector. To the Y connector, to this other connector over here. It's very strongly attached. I think it's even soldered in there, or attached with some kind of glue or something. I tried to remove it and I couldn't. I tried to remove it to see if I could bentesh to ablate the Y connector and the cable, right? Because I don't know where the device is. It could be in the cable as well, in this orange cable. But anyhow, I tried to remove it and I couldn't, right? So I mean, if the device is removable, that would justify putting the sticker, right? If you really need it for the company, for Comcast. If Comcast really needs this piece of device to be able to work as a company, well, I think it's a pretty bad company, right? Like, I mean, there's better ways to do this. And if they really need to put this on every single house in the world, I'm talking about this filter over here. I think they're pretty dumb, right? Their engineering department would be awful. I don't know how they can compete in the market. But assuming that is the case, if the device is attached to the T, why put the sticker, right? I mean, why put the sticker on something that is not really detachable? Because this is not. I mean, I tried pretty hard to detach it and I couldn't. I don't want to break it. I mean, I think if I try hard enough, probably I will be able to do it. But I don't want to break it, right? But it's kind of fixed in there. So I don't know. The whole thing just doesn't make much sense, right? Like the presence of the device, something that could be done in a better way, and the sticker, right? Like discouraging people to remove it. Knowing them, right, and having seen what they do for so long, I see this and I say, yeah, I know your game, and I know what you're doing. So if I was a betting man, I would bet the filter is it, right? So anyhow, I'm saving it, as you can see, very carefully manipulating it when I have to. I don't do it often. And I put it on my vault where it's difficult to be stolen, just in case they have that thought. So now let's talk about a couple of other things that are related to this. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so the other one is that after I moved to the other house and I started developing a more I would say planet scale system to detect statistical anomalies, right, based on the key opinion leaders technology, which is a SPI-HEL, basically the SPI-HEL pipeline. That pipeline, there's a glossary in the website where you can see exactly what it does, but to keep this on the shorter side of things, that pipeline at some point in August picked up this document, okay, and flagged it as a statistical anomaly. So there's a few things here. So this is a document that has a list of donors for a political campaign for Suarez for President. Okay, Suarez for President Inc. Now, I have to say, I looked this up, and it seems like Suarez is a political operator or political person, politically exposed person in Florida, I think in Doral, in the county of Doral, Florida, that apparently wanted to run for president in the last presidential elections, and he set up this, or somebody set up this to support him, basically, right? But this was a very short-lived initiative. How do I say? And I'm sorry if I don't get the terminology correctly, but like his intentions to run for president lasted like a week. I don't know, like a few days. I don't know exactly how long, but he didn't really run, right? Like he withdrew before that he could actually run. Now, what's interesting of this document is that, well, first one, the name Suarez is the same name as Penelope Suarez, the mother of Andres Eduardo Pirela, who is the kid. He's just a kid, right? And I have to say, I'm really sorry for having to mention his name in this video. He's just a kid, and whatever, if he did something, I'm sure, like I wouldn't blame him, right? Like if your parents tell you to do something, you would do it, right? So I don't think he should be a person really to blame, or no, I don't know, I wouldn't. I wouldn't put the blame on the kid. But Suarez is the last name of Penelope, right? And her father, Carlos Suarez, who lives in Florida. Now, Carlos Suarez is a SEBIN agent. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty confident of this. And he did things like every time I went running with Penelope, he would call her cell phone to track me, right? To track the location of her cell phone and tracking me by proxy that way. Now, and this is a theory, okay? I have to say, this is just a theory. I'm not just presenting what the pipeline flagged. The pipeline co-clustered this document with Carlos Suarez, the father of Penelope Suarez, and Penelope Suarez, who's the mother of Andres Eduardo Pirela, who is the kid that installed the cable, that moved the cable, right, the Comcast cable. That's why I'm bringing this up in this context. Now, in this document, basically, there's $1 million, almost $1 million in donations, okay, to this person Suarez, that is not identified by name, just as Suarez, that apparently was going to run for president, but then didn't run. And there was $1 million in this in payments to this, organization from donors. Okay, all these payments are small amounts. Now, there is the interesting part. If you look at the list of donors, right? So there is Shervin Pichar, who is an ex-Uber employee, ex-employee of Travis Kalanick directly. He was directly employed by Travis Kalanick. I think he even reported directly to Travis Kalanick. During the time, Travis Kalanick allegedly was working on the Hell app, which is the one that is mentioned in the Gonzalez v. Uber lawsuit in California, that alleges espionage in the same ways that they're spying on us today, right? My company and me, and targeting me, like the same techniques of following the MAC addresses, all that is explained in that lawsuit. Gonzalez v. Uber, look it up if you can. It's posted in the website. I have because they disappeared that PDF from the internet, of course, but I saved the copy before even mentioning it, and it's posted in the website, so you can get it from my website if you like. So Shervin Pichar is mentioned in this document. So he donated to Suarez for president $330, right? No, $3,300, right? Of course, because he's the CEO of Sofreth Capital, right? Which is marked in the, like, this company is marked in the Geo Index, and his address is marked in the Geo Index as well. And there's another gentleman here, John Utendal, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly. And this is an interesting character too, because and this is another story, and I'll just give references in case you want to dig into this. But there's an agent called Maria Eugenia Rojas in New York. She's an agent, right? She's marked in the index, and she did a lot of things that some of them are even hard for me to talk about. But in one of the occasions, right, she invited me to a party that was not a party, like a friends gathering, right? And this thing took place in a hotel, in a suite of a hotel in New York, in downtown New York. That, as she explained it, was a suite of John Utendal, this person. He's an executive from Bank of America, and he's kind of famous. Like, he at some point was dating Beyoncé. I don't know, one of those celebrities. I don't know exactly who he was dating, but he was dating one of those, pop stars, singers. So he's kind of famous, right? And he was like a big shot at Bank of America, and I don't know, his net worth is like $500 million, something like that. On paper, right? Crypto, like, that's nothing compared to his crypto assets, according to the database that I got from Elon Musk. So the fact that Suarez for president is the organization that is getting these donations, right? And the two key players. Well, I say Joe Otendale is a key player because, well, he donated or facilitated that suite where I was invited to that reunion. And in that reunion, there was Maria Eugenia Rojas, who's an agent, right, working with Nelson Lara, who is the person that tried to get me to go to Caracas to put me in the helicoid. So, direct connection to Diosdado Cabello there. And also, in that reunion, there was a person named Angelica, or Angelica in Spanish, a Colombian woman, who allegedly was dating John Otendale at the time, right? And this information I got directly from Maria Eugenia Rojas, who was her friend. So I have no reason to believe that she was lying. And in fact, Maria Eugenia Rojas was the one that volunteered all this information about, this gentleman, John Otendale, involvement in providing the suite, in dating Angelica, and now he appears in this document also donating the same amount. Look, it's exactly the same amount, 3300, right? $3,300. and this address, 2811, and other addresses tied to him are marked in the geo index as well. 2811 South Bay Shore Drive, Miami, Florida 33133. That's the address. And this document is posted in the website, and it's also in the archive. This I didn't mention yesterday. I was remembering that I should have mentioned it, and I'll put a link on this on here. But if you click on evidence, right, there is a link here that says do not download the archive, right? This link over here. If you click on this link, it will download a file that is like 6 gigabytes. It has all the documents, all the PDFs, all the photos. Like, it's the full investigative archive. Feel free to download that. In that archive, there is a folder. It's organized by folders, and the folders are sorted by importance of the player, right? Categories, and I have a sorting system in there. Anyhow, there's a folder for John Utendahl, and in that folder there is a PDF, which is that PDF that I'm showing you, the Suarez for President PDF. Is in his folder, and I think it's also in Carlos Suarez folder. Carlos Suarez also has a folder. Carlos Suarez is the father of Penelope Suarez, who is basically the grandfather of Andres Eduardo Pirela, who is the kid that moved the cable. And again, I'm mentioning the kid's name. The kid is like 20 years old at this point, right? This was years ago. But the only reason I'm mentioning the kid's name is because I think it's fundamental to show the connections in this network, right, and how they operate, right, to get you to do the things that they need you to do. In this case, they wanted me to move the cable, but they wanted they wanted me to move the cable to a house that they also controlled, and they needed the opportunity to install this fallback device for capturing the MAC address if they needed to. So that's the only reason I'm mentioning him. But if and I know I have no saying on these things, and my opinion doesn't matter, right? But I have to say it, right? Like, I think a kid should not be held responsible for being misguided by his or her parents, right? Like, the people that are supposed to protect him and to guide him through life. Making that person or that young person make just bad decisions, right? I think that's the biggest crime in all this, unfortunately. So, well, this was the Comcast debacle, and I'm right now I have Comcast, and I'm recording and posting all this information in using that Comcast, right? I'm hoping that they intercept my traffic again, and the FBI is watching, and they get caught red-handed. That's my hope. Oh, there's another thing. One more thing. So this guy was captured by the cameras of the Call Mobile, and he was co-clustered with an Xfinity attack that happened in 2023. Another incident that is documented in the archive, in the website. They were heavily attacking the websites and attacking my internet connection. They caused my internet to be down for like almost a day. At the peak of the conflict, right? Like, so when they don't know what else to do, then they bring down the internet, and then if they still can't get you, then they bring the lawyers. Like, the lawyers is always like the last resource, right? Like, when they see that they can't do anything against you, then they bring the lawyers, which is also a mistake, I think, because in that time, after the September attacks, they brought David F. Hine into the mix, and that led to the downfall of Akamai. I mean, Akamai, I'm pretty sure there's no way out. I mean, this is undeniable, right? I have so much evidence that. And then again, right, like in March 2025, when they didn't see anything they could do, then they took my son, and then they brought in the Adams law firm and the other law firm that Philip Denning and the HOA of Lake Point Estates are using to try to silence me, right? And that is also led to the downfall of many people, because I have so much data and so much proof that they're just bringing more people into this that are going to go down and are going to talk, right? When confronted with, I imagine, right, what are going to be charges that because the things that they've done to suppress me include murder attempts, multiple of them. And if they're working together, right, they're just sharing the liability with more people. And that means more people could talk, right, faced with the prospect of severe penalties, right? So I think it's a mistake, but let's see how it plays out. Anyhow, this guy, he was caught by the cameras and co-clustered with that Comcast attack. At the beginning, the pipeline co-clustered him and tagged him with engineering, like as if he was an engineer. But after the system got more data, he was reclassified as an intelligence officer, Iranian probably. He was driving this Tesla with plates Victor Tango Bravo 2566. And he intercepted me this time when he was caught. I have all the metadata of the incident in the pipeline, but from what I recall, it was here. It was in the supercuts, outside of the supercuts at FM 1093 and FM 1463. I think it was here, yes. So let me see. 1093. Let me see 1 second. Oh no, it wasn't here. It was in the. Yeah, it was here. It was in the sports clip here. So that car, and I'm telling this because Tesla has telemetry of the car, so this could be verifiable, right? All you have to do is look for days in which this vehicle, this Tesla BTB2566, was somewhere around this location at the same time as my red Tesla Model S. Because I was driving the red Tesla that day, I think. And the interception was here, so that car was parked basically here. And this point is marked in the index, right? Like, I can show you, like, if I copy that and go to spy hell. And go to the paramilitary and crypto tab and paste that. Sorry. Right. So you can see, right, the level of this is crazy. The level of surveillance, right, that they have in this corner. And this corner is a very important corner because of, well, I don't want to get off topic, but it's a very important corner because it gives access to all these paramilitary controlled positions, right, with two major roads. So anyhow, the white Tesla was parked around this point, which is 29.69526 minus 95.84520. And I was driving on this direction from east to west, and he got photographed by the left camera on the front. And that's how the system got him. And through analysis of public records data, and a series of signals that I'm not gonna go into the details, he got co-clustered with that incident of the Xfinity attack. So he's somehow related to that. Okay, but the system, the latest state, I think it is that the system thinks that this entity is actually Iranian intelligence. So it could be an important player. So anyhow, a lot of connections here, right? So Xfinity, Aspen, a key player in at least the Katy operation of Xfinity in terms of espionage, right? All the Comcast contractors in Katy are marked in the index. This was also posted before in the journal. All of them, and it makes sense, right? Like if you're going to run a spy operation with 52,000 properties in a small area. Katy is very small. Katy could be maybe, I don't know, 15 miles by 15 miles maybe, and they have in that small area 52,000 real estate properties, which means they have at least 100,000 agents, right? Because, well, in each house, right, they compose the households in a very, traditional way, right? So there's always a husband, a wife, and the two are agents, right? And voters, most of them, right? Which is another angle of the operation. So yeah, if you're going to run an operational hub like that with 70,000, 80,000 people, and you need to keep tabs on all of them, well, one way to do it is with the internet providers, right, that operate in the area. And if you're going to do that, you need to control the contractors, because you can't risk it that they hire somebody that is not part of the network, and then that person happens to have a friend in the FBI or says something stupid on the phone, right, and gets tracked or flagged by the NSA, and then the whole thing goes down. So you can't risk it, right? So that's why all the contractors that work for Comcast in Katy, Aspen is, I think, the major one, but all of the others, the smaller contractors, all of them are flagged in the index, and many of them intercepted me while I was running. Like they actually work as ground spies, intercepting people, intercepting their communications. We using the Comcast branded bands. I have this recorded hundreds of times happening, with signals, spectrometer readings, everything. I put all that data at the disposal of authorities, and the FBI and others. All right, so I think this is a good way to stop this one. But this is a pivotal moment, like the one I described yesterday. I mean, this incident, I think, could be fundamental in making a RICO case against. And I'm sorry when I say RICO, maybe I'm not pronouncing it correctly. I mean, the Racketeer and Influence Corrupt Organizations Act. I think in English people pronounce it differently, but I naturally pronounce it RICO, because that's how you would say it in Spanish. But that's what I mean, right? Like I think from an investigative point of view, and maybe even a judiciary point of view, the Comcast incident and all the data that I have gathered, I think could be a good ammunition for the free world to fight this from the standpoint of law and order. And this, before I go today, there was something I said yesterday, right? That it kind of, sometimes this happens to me. Like I say something, right, and sometimes, very rarely, it doesn't happen often, but very rarely, I get this feeling afterwards, like like an intuition, like it feels like there was something deeper in that, and I didn't really grasp it. And then I think a little bit more, and sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. But yesterday I said something. I said, I want to share it with you. I said something to the effects of, I said, well, they're running experiments with the trucks. There's actually two things I want to say about that. So I said something like, they're running experiments with the Texas Agriculture Department trucks, and I was describing that experiment. And I said, well, it's kind of sad. I understand that they're running experiments. I would do the same, right? Like they're trying to figure out how the system works to catch up. And I said, it's kind of sad that they're trying to catch up to me, who I'm a non-important player by any standards, right? That you look at it, I can't compete with them, like in resources or in people. Like I have no resources, no people, right? And so I said, it's kind of sad that they're trying to catch up to me in terms of technology. And afterwards I was kind of reflecting on that, and I thought, there's something deeper here. And I think I found it. I think it is that, well, think about it, right? Why is that they have to catch up? I mean, they had 20 years, 3% of all the money in the world, literally, right? And they still didn't develop technology to counter what I have. Now they're trying to develop it, but they didn't do it in 20 years or with 3% of the money of the world and allegedly millions of people, right, under their control. Why didn't they develop this technology before? And I think the answer is on that they are a monopoly, right? They have the monopoly of payments. They have the monopoly of many things, right? And I think that's the deeper thing, right? Like the monopolies have this counter or undesirable effect that they kill innovation because they're so comfortable knowing that they have the monopoly, that they don't have any need to innovate. They can just keep committing crimes and winning on business and everything else just by committing crimes without the need to innovate. Right? So that actually kills innovation because then they didn't have the need to create anything new. They could just they just keep doing the same thing at a bigger scale, but it was always the same thing: stealing information, right? Intercepting radio frequency communications, intercepting internet traffic, killing opposition, literally killing people, right? And that the effect of that, the end effect of that, is that it takes away the need for innovation, and therefore they fell behind, right? So they were victims in a way of their own tactical advantages given by the impunity that they have, right? Now contrast that with me, right? Like I have to innovate. If I don't innovate, they kill me. Like literally, that's what's at stake for me. So if I don't develop this software to protect myself, my safety, right? They would literally kill me. They could have killed me. So I have a strong drive for innovation because of my situation, right? I don't know. That was the thought. And the other thing that I thought yesterday, after I said that yesterday about the Department of Agriculture trucks that they were using to run that experiment, I recommend people to watch that segment on the video of yesterday. That was on June 4th, 2025 that I posted the video. I remember the Venezuela. I posted this on the website already, but just a reminder that a Venezuelan informant that works in the Venezuelan army told me that they infected the eggs purchased. Well, I don't know if they infected the eggs or they infected the birds that laid the eggs with bird flu intentionally to harm me. And that's the only reason why I didn't get harmed, because I stopped eating the eggs. Saying all this because I saw those in the system, right? The two trucks from the Department of Agriculture of Texas, they were using to run experiments against the Col Mobile. And it occurred to me, and this is a theory, right? I'm not accusing anybody. I don't have any proof of anything, but it occurred to me that if somebody has access to bird flu strains or vials or whatever it is that, however it is that they do it, it's probably the Department of Agriculture, right? Like, I mean, they need to have access to the virus to be able to test things and to compare strains, and it makes sense that they have access to the virus. And well, the Venezuelan informant told me that they were intentionally infecting the birds that were laying the eggs that I was eating, right, or purchasing at Kroger, Walmart, and H-E-B. So it's possible, right, that's where the virus is coming from. It's a thought that crossed my mind, and I thought I should mention it because not because of me, but because if this is in everything they do, they always try to scale it, and this is something that also has been discussed before in the website. They don't do like one-offs, right? Like when they do something, it's an operational procedure they can deploy everywhere in the world. So if this is a thing, right, like infecting people with bird flu to kill them, they have to have they probably have a systematic way of doing it, right? It's not a thing that they're inventing for me right now. It's a thing they've been doing for 20 years. So, well, one way to do it at a scale would be controlling these departments of agriculture, right? So maybe it's not only the Texas. What I'm trying to say is that maybe it's not only the Department of Agriculture of Texas. Maybe it's just the departments of agriculture, period, right? But this would be easy to check against the index, right, using spyhealth.org. So I really recommend law enforcement agencies and intelligence agencies of everywhere in the world to check your countries or your states' departments of agriculture, the key players like the director of those departments, the directors of those departments, the field officers that are testing bird flu, for example, against the geo index using the spyhealth.org search engine to see if they're involved. It's just a suggestion, a humble suggestion. Well, thank you so much for your time, and again, I'm very thankful for 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 the chance of being in a position of doing this. Thank you.